Claire, how you doing? Is that for me? Thank you.
It's some strong water.
Fantastic.
Just as you requested.
My favourite tipple.
How are you doing anyway, Rog?
Yes, yeah. Easter, hey?
Easter. So we did Christmas. We went round knocking doors. I don't know if people enjoyed it, but we had fun.
Oh, we did.
We enjoyed
it.
Thing. Yeah. So Easter. What are we going to do about Easter?
So that's an important part of the Christian calendar, isn't it? And I think it's kind of largely misunderstood, isn't it?
I think very misunderstood sometimes. I think everyone thinks the key moment is Christmas when Jesus came, wasn't it? But actually, Easter's so much more important.
Do you know, if it was only about Jesus coming, nothing would have changed, actually. In fact, nothing did change after he was born, really. When we get to Easter, that's when everything has changed, and history, was developed from that point, really. So, what does Easter actually mean to us? I guess that's what we're thinking about.
Yeah, and I think it would be really interesting, wouldn't it, to think about Easter in the way of how did Jesus feel at Easter? There's some harsh stories in there. I often wonder how Jesus felt as he walked through those last couple of hours of his life. So we're going to spend some time over the next couple of days just looking at the last couple of hours of Jesus's life. Let's
do that, and maybe we'll do 5 minutes or so over the next four days. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. As the story unfolds.
Sounds great, yeah. So Thursday today.
Thursday.
It is Thursday, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah.
Thursday it is. Yeah. So yeah, what stands out to me about Thursday was Jesus had that Last Supper, didn't he, with his best friends, but then he went off to the garden to spend time with his Father.
And the disciples, all his mates were asleep in the garden.
Always the men always fall asleep. They can't stay up, can they?
It's true. Yeah.
So he went off to the garden, and I was just thinking, as I read the passages in the Bible, it very much talks about Jesus sweating drops of blood, and I thought, what's that about? And then I read somewhere that actually there's a medical condition for people who are just so stressed, and I thought actually that's very striking, isn't it? When I look around my estate, my community, actually we're all live with a lot of stress today.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm just reminded that, okay, so this is on Thursday, he knew what was coming. He knew what Friday was going to bring for him, and in hindsight, we know what he had to endure, but nobody else did at the time. Although he told his disciples, didn't he, time and time again, but they just didn't get it. Bless them. And talking of his disciples, at that Last Supper, there was Judas, wasn't there? Now Judas was the guy that he sold his friend out, didn't he? For some pieces of silver, he handed him over. So that sense, I guess, what Jesus would have felt from that behaviour from Judas was betrayal.
Can you imagine actually one of your best friends, or even, your partner, spouse, or such a good friend suddenly, I don't know, selling you out for someone else, for something else?
Well, yes, I can, and there's a lot of people who've had marriages or families or friendships that have broken up, and to varying degrees we've gone through that, and it's not much fun. It's a horrible situation, and so I guess, thinking about, that last Supper, and then the kind of that moment in the garden, and then that sense of betrayal, Jesus is showing that he's been there, done it, got the t-shirt. He knows what it's like to be stressed. He knows what it's like to be betrayed, to be brokenhearted.
Yeah, it stands out to me. He gets us. He understands, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
He gets us.
Yeah. So, the other thing, just kind of clear before we kind of say goodbye for Thursday and we think about Friday, is that I'm just reminded that a lot of this stuff that we're talking about is not some kind of bizarre fairy tale that has been passed around through generations. This is historically accepted facts, isn't it? There's as much evidence that Jesus was around as there was for Julius Caesar being around. We all accept that Julius Caesar was around.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what we've got here is kind of first-hand accounts of people who saw what is historically accepted, and they put a human flavour to it that I think makes it relevant to us.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, isn't it, to realise that we're not just talking about a fairy tale story, a book that we've picked up off the library and enjoy reading. Actually, this was a real man who walked through those real life situations.
So we've looked at that kind of, that stress, that anxiety. We've looked at kind of being betrayed. Tomorrow we're going to look at what happened at the cross. We're going to look at pain and suffering and death. And that's ultimately what most people, have got in the back of their mind, isn't it?
Easter. And they call it Good Friday.
I'll see
Doesn't
you.
sound very good to me.
I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye.